few minutes past 9. We're going to get started here. I'd like to welcome everybody. Have we got any new people here today?
Me.
Well, John Wayne, we know he's new. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Take just a moment to tell you about our group here. We're, of course, the Athens Forge group. We're members of the Alabama Forge Council, which consists of about 10 groups throughout the state. We all get together twice a year in Tannehill State Park. One week in April for a blade symposium, and then in September we have a blacksmith symposium down there.
When is that?
Sorry?
When is that?
September the 6th and the 7th.
Okay.
That'd be at Tannehill
Weekend
State
after
Park.
Labor Day is the easy way to run.
But we'd like to welcome everybody here today. If you're not a member of the AFC, we would encourage you to join. In joining the AFC, it's $25 a year. We've got some applications in the back here. And with that, you get a copy of the Autonomous Bits every 2 months, I think it is. But we're doing a good job with them. Steve, our editor, is here with us today. It's good to have him with us. And we're just excited about the job he's doing. We've got our bits on track. Everything's going really good. We are live streaming today our YouTube videos. So if you're watching today, pass that information on to your friends to turn on wherever you're at, and you can see the demonstrations that are going on here. We just returned from the Madison Conference in Madison, Georgia. Had a real good conference, a real good turnout, and a lot of tailgating. I think we registered about 690 for the conference down there, which was one of the top numbers that we've registered in the last few years. As I mentioned, Tannehill Conference will be September the 6th and the 7th. John Perlitz from Louisiana and our own Travis Fleming will be the two featured demonstrators this year. Around lunchtime, we're going to stop about 12. My wife is bringing over some dogs and chips and some homemade banana pudding, so we'll stop and grab a dog and see what that does to us to keep us going. Scott Davis had, where you at, Scott?
Over here.
He won't take just a minute. He had a request. I'm going to let him have just a second.
Thanks, Ron. I'm Scott Davis, and I came up with an idea for a commercial product. I'm not a blacksmith, and I'm looking for a partner to help me see if it's a credible idea. So I'm looking for someone interested in helping me design this thing, and coming up with some different pieces that we can put in it. It's in scale. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but in scale, it's about the size of a gate. And anyway, during the day, I'll be here hanging around, and if you think you might like to talk to me, see what the idea is, what I'm looking for is a partner. The idea is can we make these things? How much would it cost us to make these things? My job would be to try to sell them. Okay? If we were successful, I would hope that the person that my partner could talk to me about how we're going to scale up, how to make 100 of these or 500 of these. So I'm around, and it's a new product. I think it's something that hasn't been sold before. So anyway, please come talk if you got anything.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. We have several sometimes asking about classes. We do not teach per se. The Alabama Forge Council does not have classes here. But Al Stevens and Travis do some classes through the college. They do teach these here at Travis's shop, but it goes through the college. So if you need any information, interested in some classes, you'll see Al. Hold your hand up, Al. Somebody not know you. And Travis over here by the door with the camera. They do the teaching of the classes here. So if you're interested in that, please see them. We do have over here on this table, we have some best of the bits. We have taken a lot of the bits in the past and put them together in just one book, and they're for sale. This is not part of our group here. This is the Alabama Forge Council that they belong to. Travis just got them put off on him to take care of. But they're over here on the table. If you're the price is over there. If you're interested in those, please see them. Next month, we're going to have a demonstrator. It's going to be Steve. I don't know if Steve knows what he's going to do yet or not. Do you, Steve?
It'll be a spatula.
Spatula, okay. Steve's gonna be demonstrating a spatula next month. Steve does a very good job. He's demoed for us at Tanny Hill at our convention down there before, so we're looking forward to that. Today we have a special guest, Mr. John Wayne Taylor. Can't say a lot about John Wayne. He's a very accomplished blacksmith, woodworker. There's not much John Wayne doesn't do. He's from the Central Alabama Forge group down around Wetumpka. So he's come a good ways up here for us to demo. We appreciate that. Today I think he's going to do a letter opener, a Fredrick's cross, and there's no telling what else. John Wayne does a lot of stuff, does a good job with it. So I think today will be very entertaining. And I'm going to turn it over to John Wayne now at this time.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here. When Ron asked me to demonstrate, I thought to myself, well, he's scraping the bottom of the barrel now, trying to get somebody to come up here. But when I think about all the others that demonstrate skills that people from this group have, I'm really impressed. They certainly know much more about this skill of blacksmithing than I do. You see, I had my cross here. It's a little heavy, a little hard to carry it like that. This one of the things that I make, and I learned to make this cross from Clay Spencer. But I have a smaller version that I wear often, so I'll take this one back off and put it on. But y'all pass that around and check it out. Before I start my demo, I've got a couple of things that I'd like to do if y'all will allow me to do so. Our former president of the AFC, Mark Haddock, is battling cancer, and he's going through some experimental treatments, and we hope that these treatments are helping him to find the cure to get him made whole again. If you guys don't mind, I would just like to have a short prayer for Mark. He's a great guy. A lot of you know him, but let's just pause for a moment and have a prayer for Mark. Lord, we're just so thankful that we can come together as a group and enjoy this craft and the fellowship amongst all these people. We thank you for the contributions of all the members through the years that they have made to make this group what it is. We thank you for Mark's contribution for the several years that he served as our president and all the things that we learned from him. You know he's going through a tough time. He and Valerie and the kids are it's really difficult to go through a life-threatening situation, and we just ask you to continue to hold his hand and support him and help the medical staff treating him to find a cure and get Mark made well again. And we just thank you so much for what he's done for us and through the years, and we just hope that we can get him cured and get him back made whole again. We just thank you so much for what you do for us, and we ask that everybody that's here today have a safe trip back home. And we thank you so much for all the blessings that we receive from you. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I've got several things I want to talk about and demonstrate. I decided to do this letter opener. It's a pretty interesting project. I saw this demonstrated at the AFC conference probably about 15 years ago.
Can you speak up just a little bit, John Wayne?
Okay. I saw this demonstrated at the conference. Doug Merkel demonstrated this at the AFC conference several years ago, and I found out later that the originator of this design is Elmer Roush. So he came up with the idea of putting the marble in the handle, and Doug saw his demonstration and did it at the conference one year. Doug's version is real similar to this, but he put the marble in while the metal is hot. And the problem that he was having was that the marble would get hot, and when he quenched it, the marble would shatter. It took him about 3 tries to get a good marble in there. So I've come up with a method to do it without having to heat it. And the way I do it, when I start drawing the fingers, this is the beginner's project that I started a couple of days ago, and I wasn't real happy with the twist. It didn't come out like I wanted it to. It wasn't as even as I wanted it to be. So I kind of gave up on it. So I worked on this one. But when I draw the fingers out, it's just like making a fork. If you've ever made a fork, This is done exactly the same way, except it's, instead of leaving them straight, you curl it up where to hold the marble. So when I draw these out, I try to make one of the fingers just a little bit smaller than the other one, so that when I do put the marble in, I'll squeeze the marble. Get over here where they can see it online. I'll squeeze these together in the leg vise after I've curled the fingers, and that'll pull everything together just right, so you don't have to have the process of trying to do it hot. So we're gonna get the forge going here, and we'll work on the other end of this, and I'll show you the steps I go through. So feel free to make comments. You see something going on, now understand that my method may not be exactly like what you would do, but this is the way I do it. Is it the best way? Probably not, but it works for me. So as you develop one of these and start doing it yourself, you'll develop your own skills and your own techniques. You can watch 5 people do this ladder opener, and you'll see 5 different ways to do it. Then you'll take one of each demo and apply it to what you do, so that you can develop what works for you. So let's get this thing hot, and we'll start beating on some steel.
Hey John, while that's heating up, can you lay one of the finished ones across the top of the anvil?
John, I had a bad habit of laying something out. This one style, this ladder opener is very similar to handle, but I did a different piece on. This is the style of handle that the early American people used on some of their patch knives. I thought that looked pretty cool being together like that. And it's a single edge instead of a double edge. We'll do the twist first. It's much easier to do the twist first before you split. You draw the fingers out. It goes faster, a little easier to get the twist with precision. Precision twist. Run that one around. Hey guys, how you doing?
John, what size stock are you using?
I use 1/4 flat bar.
Thank you.
This is what I use. Anytime you do a twist, you want to heat a good inch past where your twist is going to be, so that you keep everything good and hot, but you want to heat a good inch past whatever you're twisting, so that you have a good and hot where the twist is a lot easier. You don't have too many problems with the twist not going correctly. Now, you're probably thinking, how much material did I need to make this twist? Well, I need that much. That's about 5 inches, 5.5 inches or whatever. Anytime you twist a flat bar, it will get shorter in length. This one will draw up probably about 1/2 inch, almost, as I do the twist. Square bar, when you twist square bar, it will not shrink in length. Flat bar will. This is my magic twisting wrench, made from a monkey wrench, welded a handle to it. Adjustable, set it up whatever things you're working with. First thing I'm going to do is cut a groove in it. I'm going to forget to do that. I'm going to use something else. Grooving tool made from a ball peen hammer. Metal handle welded into it. I offset the angle on the cutter so that I can hold it off to the side instead of holding it like this or like this. It's just more comfortable for me to do it that way. I've got, they pass this one around. Listen up. You can see the lines that I made, some of them didn't connect very well. That's not going to matter very much because when I make the twist, all that will disappear.
John, how far back, when you pre-cut your end there, how far did you cut? About an inch and a half or something?
Something like this.
Yeah.
About an inch and a quarter, inch and a half, something like that. You can make it a little bit longer, and when you draw your fingers out, if you have too much length, you want about an inch and 3/4, almost 2 inches for the fingers. You'd be surprised how far that stuff will move out. But you can cut some of it off if you got it too long. I found that inch and a quarter is a good size, a good length to move. That's a good idea to keep everything good and straight before you start your twist. Get a little bit better twist by doing that. Close enough. This forge kind of covers up what I'm saying, so I'll try to talk louder. You need to put a muffler on this.
We ain't figured that part out yet, John.
I'm hard of hearing, so when you talk to me, you have to yell, but I'll try to be a lot louder than what I have been. Is the microphone picking me up okay? Can you tell?
You could always be a bit louder.
I bought one of these forges about 2 years ago from Ron, and it's been in my shop. Never used it until about 2 days ago. I hooked it up, tried it. I love it. It's wonderful. You don't have one, you need to get one.
John, what was that you're talking about? What was that you're talking about? What we need?
The forge,
One of those little
forge.
I got one.
You don't have one, you need to buy one. You save a lot of gas, and if you don't have anything really large, it's perfect. You make it knife or doing what I'm doing here, you can't beat it. When I bring this out, put it in the vise is going to soak up a lot of the heat. So I'm trying to get it good and hot and past where I want my twist to start for that reason. And it may take 2 or 3 heats to get the twist just like I want it. And I'll use water to cool part of it so that it'll twist like it needs to. Alright, let's try this. Plant bar is kind of difficult to twist. Okay, pretty crooked. Straighten it just a little bit. Fine. Pretty good twist. Maybe a little bit, could be a little bit tighter. Sometimes I use a wooden mallet to finish tweaking it. If you use light blows with a hammer, you can kind of bring it more in line. Quite a bit, didn't it? Okay, that straightened it out pretty good. I would like for the ends to be a little bit tighter than what it is. So I'm going to reheat it and try to get it just a little bit tighter. If this is one that's passed around, the longer ladder opener is got a pretty good uniform twist on it. Yeah, that turned out pretty good. Just a little. If you notice the spacing with the twist is pretty uniform. Not exactly the same all the way through. A little wide here, but a little tight here. But that's a pretty good twist. That's about 3 heats to get that right.
found that it's easier to cut the slot first before you do the twist. Get it in the saw easier. You draw the fingers out first and then do the twist. It's more difficult to hold on to it. So I just cut the slot, do the twist, and I come back and draw the fingers out. Not perfect, but it's pretty close. Yeah, it is. Sometimes I try to be too perfect, but that's close enough. That'll give you a pretty good idea of how to go about doing that. We're going to heat up this part and draw the fingers out. Next demo piece is going to be this small 3-inch cross made from stainless steel. Made one yesterday, and Big Bob came through here. He wound up taking it home with him, so I had to make 2 more this morning. But that's a pretty good trick. First time I saw this done, this guy right here did it on a treadle hammer with hot cut chisel. He had feet on his. Took him about 30 minutes to split it open and hammer it out and do it. When he got through, his leg was about this big around on the treadle hammer. But I decided that was a lot of work, so I cut mine out with a bandsaw. I take the easy way. But this is my wall hanger version with the dogwood flower. And you've probably seen a lot of the crosses that he's done. Clay does a really nice dogwood flower too. His is style a little bit different from this, but he does a real nice dogwood flower. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from this guy here. Okay. Probably ought to cut this end off so I can work it better. I think I will. Let me come right through here and saw
John?
Cut an 1.25 slot. I draw them out to about 1.75 inches, around 2 inches. See, I've got these are, John, these are a little bit different length.
Okay. It's within 1 zern.
Yeah. You try to make enough material to hold the marble in place. You can take it as far as you want to go with it, but usually that's plenty. Hold it. I had made them longer. Normally I don't make them any shorter than this. If you use different color marbles, so that's a decision you have to make when you make one, is what color do I want to put in it. We've got a Harley Davidson marble up there that we'll probably put in the one I'm doing here. Because the forge is so small, I have to fold the fingers back a little bit. Get it back in there. Difference in the length of the start and what I'm drawing it out to. Y'all bored yet? I've started rounding it. Okay, the easiest way to make sure you get them both the same length, take a piece of soapstone, marker, whatever, Sharpie, put a mark on your anvil. bring the other one out too. Makes it a lot easier getting the same length. Making the fork, you're halfway there.
Happy marshmallows.
You need to make your fork bigger next time.
You had to make a smaller handle.
Put 2 bricks side by side and make it bigger. That's an idea, isn't it?
It is.
Mike Lynn is watching. He says he's just here to watch and heckle you. Mike Lynn is watching.
Oh.
He said he's only watching just to heckle you.
Oh yeah, well that's the way it works, isn't it? Let him go find something better to do. This was not intended to be a comedy routine, but I think it will turn out to be that. Okay. Fingers are drawn out. Twist got a little crooked, but I'll straighten that later. Maybe I'll straighten it right now. That'll need a little more tweaking after I start drawing the blade out. But I'll leave that open like this so I can get some cones around it. I like to hold it that way. Okay, let's boot it off and I'll spin it for me. When you check a piece of metal to see if it's hot, always use the back side of your hand. He taught me that. Because if you burn your fingers, you burn the back side and you still use the good side of your hand. To burn this side, it's hard to hold on to something. So, something this guy taught me. He probably don't remember teaching me that, but he did.
He's taught a lot of people a lot of things.
Yes, very much so. If you're wondering how long I need to cut the blade, that's about how long I cut it. That's about a ½ inch longer than the width of this anvil. I want to keep up with that so I can see how far the blade draws out in length. As I do this demo, I sit here and look at Clay, and I can read his mind. And I know he's saying, I didn't really teach him how to do it like that. I taught him a better way. Make tongs. I've got several pair here that I've made, some I bought. When you make tongs, you make them out of mild steel. You can quench them while they're hot. You use a good tool steel grade tong. You do not want to quench these in water. You will ruin them in a heartbeat. So when you see these off-center tongs around here, do not put these in the water. Okay, I'm going to put a little point on here. I'll reshape it a little bit when I start cleaning the belt blade up on the belt grinder over there. That starts out pretty good. That gives you something to work for. I'm going to make the double-edged blade. Takes about 4 or 5 heats for me. Somebody else may do it 2 or 3, but I'm going to do this double-edged. This blade was drawn out flat, and I did a grind on the belt sander on the slack part of the belt, and that made it have the curve. First one I did 15 years ago. I'll hammer one side of the blade, and I'll flip it and do the other side the next heat. And I'll go back and forth that way with the blade turns. When I hammer that angle, hammer that edge, it won't get too far out of shape. The first one drew it out like this. The second one will pull it back in line. See the line start, have a little definition in the middle where the peak of the blade is. Doing the double-edged blade takes a little practice. It's easier to work with a larger piece than the 1/2 inch. One of my spike knives in there has a double edge on it, and of course it's 5/8 square. When I flattened it, I just started working the edge out. Learn to do it a little bit quicker that way, and then you go to something smaller and it's not so difficult. Sometimes you got enough heat where you can do both sides in one heat. You see, I hit the anvil quite a bit, and Travis is saying, "Quit hitting my anvil."
It hurts your hammer.
Yeah.
Guarantee
bevel. Are you twisting this up?
Yeah. When I start out when it's completely flat, I feel it, turn it up just a little bit, about the angle I think I need to get both edges started. Once I get that first one started, then I can go back to that same spot every time. Then I go to the other side and I do the same thing. I found that flat spot and I turn it up a little bit and start hitting with the heel. Now whatever's comfortable, you can hit with the heel of the hammer or the toe, depending on whether you want to, whatever you want to strike at the time. But we got a good line down the middle. It looks pretty good on both sides. I'm going to take one more heat and thin it just a little bit more, and then we'll quench it. I'm going to adjust my twist just a little bit to get my fingers more in line with the blade. I made a die at home using the tire hammer to give you a start of that double-edged blade, but I didn't make it thin enough. It doesn't work very good on this 1/4 but it'll work better on wider material, and it works better on the spike, and it'll draw it out pretty close to what I want. Then I can come back and smooth it up with a hammer. Pretty close. After I hardened the blade, I'd go to the belt sander and smooth the sides up and then grind put the sharp edges on it. Let me do a little more tweaking in here. I want to get these fingers more in line with the blade. pretty close. Off just a little bit here. I can straighten that out a little bit more. Not quite in line like I like it, but some of that'll come out when I sharpen it on the belt sander. You can work up pretty good sweat doing one of these, standing next to the heat. But if you want a fork, you can leave those open, have a knife and a fork, or you can put a marble in it and you can have a nice little letter opener. Now, keep in mind this is mild steel. It's not a good knife blade, but it makes a great letter opener. And you make one of these and give it to somebody and they think you've just done something wonderful. Well, you know you stood there for an hour and a half and beat on hot steel. But people really enjoy things like this. The little cross that I make, they like those really well. Travis and I had a discussion yesterday about quenching material to make it harder than what its natural state is. There's a guy, I think in Arizona, the Rob Gunner, that has that super quench, and he puts all sorts of soap solutions in there and salt and makes this super quench that'll take mild steel and harden it, get it pretty hard. We had a brainstorm yesterday, and we discovered garlic salt. Now, you put garlic salt on food and it really enhances the flavor. Put it in spaghetti, man, it just really wows. Put it on lasagna, and that makes lasagna taste great. Garlic bread, put your bread, butter it up, put it, salt on it, put it in the oven and bake it. Man, it's just the greatest toast you can ever find.
Did you know that garlic is one of the world's most powerful antibiotics?
A lot of people eat cloves of garlic for that reason.
You eat that, you won't get sick.
Yeah.
Good for blood pressure too.
Good
But
for blood pressure.
we decided that since garlic has such an enhancing flavor to the food, that it might work on the quench water.
So you lick the steel after you quenched it, right?
No. So what we tried just then, this worked really well. Travis had a bucket of water over there. He said, put some garlic salt in it and let's see how it works. We put a little bit in this today, but I'm going to put a lot more today. This is good stuff here, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to be amazed at what this will do when I quench that blade. Let me heat it back up and get it hot enough, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Smells good.
It does. Garlic is wonderful.
Keeps vampires away too.
It does.
Or so we've heard anyway.
For her vampires.
I also heard, now this was on the internet, and you know if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. But I've also heard that it also enhances a certain part of the male anatomy. I'm going to find out. But garlic, this tastes really good. I like it. You got garlic powder and garlic salt. I like the salt better. That's good stuff. I think that's hot enough. I'm going to let it cool off just a little bit before I quench it. All right, that's good enough right there. Oh, dropped it.
As long as it don't go through the bottom of the bucket.
Well, damn, look at that. Could you believe that? I guess there'll be a run on garlic at the grocery store tonight. Man, Travis, you were right about that. We planned this a couple of weeks ago. But I pulled that trick at Bill Richardson's one time with a spike knife, and everybody just thought that was crazy, you know. Billy Watson did this several years ago at one of our meetings at home, and I forgot what it was, some kind of knife he was making, but it floored everybody. We never expected anything like that to happen, but that's a good trick you can try on somebody with garlic powder or whatever magic chemical you want to come up with, black pepper, it doesn't matter. But it's a fun project. The handles vary in length, the blades vary in length. I'm going to finish showing how the marble goes in. I'm not going to complete the knife all the way, but this is one that will be in your iron in the hat whenever y'all have your next one. I made this 2 or 3 days ago. This was my second try. The first one I wasn't real happy with the twist, so I stopped and started over. And I did get this one a lot better. It's not totally perfect like I like to have them sometimes, but it is much better. So y'all pass that around and check it out. And if you want to dry it off here. But that has been painted with a clear enamel, so it's not going to rust. It'll be fine. It's only been in the water for a few hours this morning. But that's a neat trick you can pull on somebody, and it's a lot of fun to do. When I curl these fingers, after I get them pretty close to what I want, I like to clean them up with some emery cloth or something to polish them just a little bit on the insides, because it's hard to get to the deburring wheel. You can get the outside fairly easy, but it's hard to get the inside, so I clean them up a little bit. But I'm not going to go to that trouble today, because I just want to show you basically how I curl them and how I put the marble in. Now, if you'll notice, you can see the one side's a little fatter than the other.
Do a little lower.
It's a little bit fatter, you can notice. And I deliberately did that because it makes it easier when you pull it together in the leg vise. So let's go ahead and heat it up, and I'll curl them like I want them, and then we'll do that.
You had us going because we forged and formed one day up here.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, another miracle.
Hey, when you think about all the things that go on up here, and the folks that make things, Travis and Steve and Al and some of the other people there, I mean, I see some amazing stuff come out of this area up here. I mean, I'm just baffled at what y'all do. We don't have that much talent now where we are. We've got 3 or 4 guys in our group that are really good at it, but y'all have a lot of people that are really good at it. So I'm really impressed. And when Ron asked me to come up and demo, I said, oh boy, he's scraping the bottom of the barrel now. He must be desperate for a demonstrator. You ever wonder what this for? This step, now you know what it's for. I'm gonna get a better pliers. Hold on. have repurposed many tools for different things. These were square jaw pliers with some kind of fence wire work. Has cutters on the side here. I rounded them up to make scrolling tongs out of them. This is the best pair of pliers. I had to cut them apart to do the work. So I put a rivet back inside and hammered it back down. These are really, really handy. If you find a pair of these old pliers like this, they really work well. Jaws are real beefy, real tight. You can use them to do a lot of curling with. Ball bearing that I like to use sometimes to help me get it close to the size that I want it to be. That way I don't damage the marble. I lose one here and there. I find it on the floor.
That's what I get for asking.
Flea markets, craft shows. You see some of the glass diamonds up there on the table. I bought those at a craft show in Montgomery. Rock and gem show. You find them all over. Anytime you find somebody that's doing a rock and gem show somewhere, go to them. You'll find all kinds of neat things that you can use, like the marbles and the little rocks, small stone color, whatever. Okay. This is basically what I'll wind up with after the marble is in. So now I have to decide which side is the weakest side, and it's going to be this one here. I'm going to pull it back a little wider than it needs to be. And you can see that if I were to put the marble in it right there, it would most likely fall out. Okay, I'm going to quench this. There's no more magic in the water, so we took all that out of the water. Good thing about it, Travis has soap in here, so that kind of cleans it off a little bit whenever if somebody will go in there and get me a marble that's got the green marble with the yellow Harley Davidson writing on it, we'll slip this piece in here and see how it does.
The green one with the Harley Davidson.
Green marble.
It was sitting in one of those pieces.
The scroll, the curl's off just a little bit. I might can move it with my pliers here. Oh, that'll work. We'll do the yellow. Okay, no matter. That'll work fine. Okay, we'll get that sucker in there. Not quite. Oh, wrong hole.
She hole.
I told you this was going to turn into a comedy routine before the day was over. Still not like it.
Try to squeeze it down, John, just out.
I'm just trying to bring it out to get the marble in. Once you get the marble in, then I can pull them together. All right, now we got it. All I do is come over here to the leg vise. I can hold the marble.
Losing the marbles.
Yeah, look out. I lost my marble again. I guess I could probably do this with a pair of pliers, which would work fairly well. That didn't work. I need to open that up just a little bit.
I hear Mike Lynn chuckling right now.
He's having a ball right now.
But his time is
Yeah.
few, because he's going to come and demo for us also.
Yeah, well, I'll be online. I'll
Yeah.
heckle him too. Yeah, Raymond's probably watching too. They're both laughing their head off right now. Yeah, this does basically the same thing that the vise would do, but really all you're trying to do is squeeze it back together. And you know, it never works out perfect when you got 30 people watching you do it.
It's like lighting a fire.
That's it.
Mike Lynn says no pressure.
And
And it's funny because pressure is the thing you need for the marble right now. So.
Okay, that's basically what you wind up with. Once you get your fingers just right, you can test it with a ball bearing and squeeze it together with the leg vise or a pair of pliers or whatever, but that's why you make one side a little bit weaker than the other. And it turned out that both of these are pretty close to the same size, I think, in that area right there. I should have tweaked that a little bit different back the other way, but that's pretty much what you wind up with. And clean it up on the belt sander, put an edge on it,
and it makes a pretty nice little letter opener. You use the deburring wheel, give it a satin finish. You can polish it just like I did some of the others, or just leave it rough in the middle and just sharpen the edge. I find that most people like looking at a knife that's kind of rustic looking, instead of all shine and chrome. But it just depends on, you know, what your taste is. But that's what you wind up with.
Good job, John.
Y'all want to pass that around?
Guys, he's not finished, so don't run off. We're gonna.
We got some other things.
He's got some other things, and we're gonna have some hot dogs here around 12.
What time is it now?
It's
Oh, it's just 10:30.
just 10:30. So if she gets here earlier, we may eat a little earlier, whatever it works.
John, have you ever thought about using the future floor wax on that instead of clear lacquer?
I do. I use butcher's wax sometimes.
Well, no, it's liquid
That would work. Yeah.
floor wax.
Yeah.
It's clear.
Yeah, you could do that. The reason I painted it with clear coat when I had it in the water, so
Yeah,
the water
no, I
wouldn't get
understand
into
that.
it.
Yeah.
But normally I use butcher's wax, which is the paste wax that you can buy at the
Right.
events, and I put that on there. And I have used another brand of paste wax. I've even used car wax before, so I do whatever I have at hand. And the little stainless steel split cross, something I came up with. And after I've made my first one, there's several other people that have been making them. There's several sites on YouTube, about 4 or 5 guys that make one similar to this, do really good with it. They make it a little bit different. Some use stainless steel, some use mild steel or whatever. I've seen them made out of brass, copper, and they're different sizes. This is the 3-inch size. And I usually drill a hole in here and put a split ring in it where you can wear it on your neck like this. I have made 3 crosses with the dogwood flower. My wife has one, I have one, and her sister has one on a piece of furniture I made for her. If anybody's looked at the Facebook page recently, in the last couple of days, you'll see the secretary writing table that I made for her, and I made drawer pulls to go on the front of it. So if you got your phone out, look it up and see what I made there. Just something I dreamed up one night. Some of my best inspirations come in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. So, but I made her the secretary out of some black walnut lumber that I had. A friend had sold to me. First time I'd made one like that, but it turned out pretty well considering. And it's amazing what you can find instructions on YouTube. You can look up just about anything and find somebody that's made it or wants to make it, and you get some really good ideas from going to YouTube and look. The little candle stands that I've got out front, they're a copy of I think a Russian guy that I saw on YouTube. I ran across one night and I started looking at his videos, and he makes some really nice stuff. Uses bare bone equipment. It's amazing what people can do with just a 4.5-inch side grinder and a hammer and a hacksaw. He's not lucky as I am. I've got porta bands at home and chop saws and large metal cutting band saws and plasma cutters. They don't have plasma cutters. They've got them. This particular guy doesn't have anything like that, but he does some really amazing work. And it's Cova 4. You can look him up on the Facebook page, YouTube, and you can see what he does. There's several other people on there that have pages. They've even copied Clay Straddle tire hammer. There's 3 or 4 different versions of it over there. They don't look nearly as nice and well made as what Clay has designed, but they work. They seem to modify things a good bit when they copy what we do over here. But how many of you have a tire hammer?
Thank you.
4 or 5? I've got one at home. If you need to build one. You need to build one because it's an amazing machine.
I got Raymond's first.
Yeah, it does good. I've been impressed with mine. When we did our workshop, we built 22, I think, or something like that, down at my place. And I got one. I sold it later on, but then I got another one back from Mitch. When Mitch got sick, he sold me his tire hammer, so I'm using his now. And I don't know if
You You still got one of the small ones that you made?
No, I only built 2 of those. Clay had one, and I built one we auctioned off in Madison one year. That's the only 2 I've ever built, and that was a half-scale version, and I've been planning on building a quarter-scale version, but I've never taken the time to do it. But build you a full-scale tire hammer, and I can assure you, you will be happy with it. Whatever else you've got, you'll do away with it. Treadle hammer, that's a great design there. I've got the inline treadle hammer. Every time I go in the shop and work, I use it. I use it to set my touch marks on whatever I make. And treadle hammer can save you a lot of work. If you don't have somebody to strike for you, you've got a treadle hammer, you can do it all yourself. But I love my tire hammer.
And the tire hammer plans can be bought from Clay.
The tire hammer plans can be bought from Clay, and in the back it has my name, that I make some of the parts, the pulley and the arms and all. I no longer make the pulley. Raymond does that now. I ran out of aluminum material to make the pulley out of, and I didn't want to buy any more. So I send everybody to Raymond whenever they call me and want some of the parts. I've got so much going on in my life right now that I just really didn't have time to get into making tire hammers. It's an enjoyable process. It takes about a week to build one for me, and I like doing them. I will build one more for myself in some months down the road, but Raymond's doing a good job with it. Makes a really good quality hammer, puts a lot of effort into it, and he's on number 85 right now.
I think he's finishing up.
You're finishing up number 85.
85.
In whatever color you want.
In whatever color you want. Or you can get one that's naked if you want it. But Raymond does a really good job. So anybody out there on YouTube watching this, you get in touch with Raymond Head in Wetumpka, Alabama, and order your tire hammer, because you'll be really happy with it. I think the next thing, I'm just going to do the little cross. It doesn't take very long to do. And then I'll show you the process I go through to make the dogwood flower. And then by then it'll be time to take a break. So.
Yep.
What's your cross made out of? What type of metal?
This is stainless steel. 3/8 square, 3/8 inch square stainless steel. I didn't have any 3/8 square stainless steel, so I took a 1/2 inch round stainless steel bar and forged it down to 3/8 square. And I forged out a piece about this long, so I cut 3 inches pieces. I cut slots in it, 1 inch from one end, 2 inches from the other, and then I just fold it out and make this. Now when I do, both sides are the same length, so I cut it off to about 7/8 inch long, which is about what these wind up when you open it up. Make it 7/8 so it'll look more in line. But it's just a miniature version of the cross that I learned what I saw Clay make in a class with John C. Campbell. But I don't use the treadle hammer and hot cut tools. I use the bandsaw, so it makes it a lot easier for me.
Members of Black Sabbath usually have something not exactly like that, but they wear
Yeah.
crosses.
I'll tell you a little story about this. My wife is retired from Alabama Power, and she's a member of an organization called the Energizers. They have a meeting every other month, and we have an auction once a year. So I donated a couple of these to the auction, and they sold. Well, it's just like when we have our iron in the hat or the auctions, we buy our stuff back from each other, what it winds up doing. And the money's used for charity or whatever. I donated one of our friends that worked there, also goes to church with us. She bought it for $65 in the auction. She takes it home and gives it to her mother. Next Sunday, her mother comes to me in church, says, I sure do like my cross that Michelle brought me, that you made, but I need another one from Michelle, because Michelle liked it so well. She really didn't want to give it to me, but she did. So would you make me one more that I can give to Michelle, because her birthday's coming up in 2 weeks? So I said, okay, I'll do that. Next Sunday, I gave her the cross that I made for her to give to Michelle. Opened my big mouth again, and I said, May Ruth, if you need another one for somebody special, I'll be glad to make you another one. May Ruth said, Miss So-and-so over here wants one, and Miss So-and-so over here wants one, and I got 2 granddaughters that want them. Well, now I'm making 4 more crosses, which that's fine. But I opened my big mouth, so I had to go back to work again. But so I bring them back to church when I get them made, and boy, she just tickled to death. And there's several folks walking around church with these crosses that I've made for them. I have given several of these away to friends who have lost a loved one. At their funeral, I would give them one. I've actually made the big cross, the 12-inch cross with the feet, and given them to people who had lost a loved one and put their name on the back, that sort of thing. it's a really nice memorial gift to give to someone. They're not that hard to make. It takes me about 2.5 hours to make the big cross, fold it out, and do the texture work, and clean it up, and get it ready.
Do you
The big
start
one
with
here.
square stock on these, John?
Pardon?
You start with square stock on
Yeah,
these?
when it's square stock on the big cross.
Yeah, well,
Now, some folks are making them out of 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, and I've seen them made out of 2-inch stuff.
but this is where you make the opposite cuts overlap.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as this, except you have a foot that you fold out.
Yeah.
You've seen the one that he made.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
No, I'm asking because I make those myself,
Yeah.
and I have a minister friend who's been in Alaska forever, and I made one for him and sent it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a normal cross that he wears, but he's been alternating mine and his every day.
Yeah.
And now he's getting moved from Alaska to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
A lot of move.
Yeah. Well, the 1-inch square makes a really nice cross stand. It's about 12 inches. You fold the feet out. When I first started doing the cross, I just folded the feet out straight back, and I really didn't like it. So I went to another class that Clay had, and there was a gentleman there that was a German prisoner of war. You may remember who he was. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he did his feet different in the back. He folded them out straight and then curled them in and then rolled them over. So that's the style I use now. It looks really well, and I think it's maybe close to what you do. And the front, they roll the toe up on the front, make a little scroll on the very end, draw it out about this far and roll it up. That makes a really nice base. The trick to doing that is that you've got to get a good level surface square to the ground so that you can get that thing plumb. And that's the trick, trying to get everything done. And sometimes I'll heat it and bend it and shape it. And I finally decided let's go to the belt center and take a little bit off here and a little bit off there and get it plumbed up. But it's about a 2.5-hour process for me. If you cut it out on a treadle hammer with a chisel, it might be a 4 or 5 hours, but time you finish it. But it's a fun project to do, and I appreciate the opportunity to take the class from Clay to learn how to do that. And I guess I made maybe 2 dozen of those crosses and given them to people. As a matter of fact, I made 3 and sent them to the White House right after Trump was elected. One for him, one for the Vice President, one for Jeff Sessions. Haven't heard a word from Trump or Pence, but I have a friend back home that knows Jeff and got through to Jeff Sessions when he was the Attorney General and told him to go look for his cross at the presidential mailroom. Well, he sent someone over there to get it, brought it back, and Jeff saw it, and they wanted to know the value of it. Well, I said it's about $150, just trying to lowball the price on it. I'd sell it for $250 if I made them, but I said about $150. Well, I got an email back. The email asked how much I valued it, but about 2 weeks later, I got the cross back in the mail in a box. Jeff said, with a letter, said that it was more valuable gift that he could legally receive. I don't know what the dollar amount is, $35, $50 or something like that, but it was over the allowed amount that he could legally receive as a gift. So he sent it back to me. Well, now that he's not a politician anymore, maybe I can catch up with him somewhere and get it to him and get it back in his hands. But I promised him about 10 years ago that I would make him one when I saw him at a political rally. I told him about it, and I said, I'm going to make you one to send it to you one day. Well, things happen, and you forget, and 10 years goes by real quick, and then when he became Attorney General, I decided that I would try to make one and send it. And then as the process was going to make his, I said, well, I'll make one for the president, the vice president, and maybe they'll appreciate it and understand that people are praying for them and wishing them well and that sort of thing. I'm assuming they're still in the mailroom somewhere. I don't know where, but can you imagine that when they receive these 3 crosses in a box, all wrapped up together, and they run them through the X-ray machine, and they look in there and see this stuff like, what the heck is this? I mean, anyway, that's enough talking. Let's do the little cross.
What do you use for this job? Stock-wise? John, what size stock?
3/8 square, 3 inches long.
Here's one that hasn't been cut. Check that out and pass it around.
you know Brian Brazil, farrier, blacksmith, this is the hammer that he uses, what he gave to me when we had a workshop at my house. It's a pretty good handy hammer. I like it really well. Farriers like to have a ball on one end and a flat on the other. This is a factory-made version of the farrier's hammer, so you see this is a little heavier. Brian likes a heavy hammer. Lyle Wynn, a friend of his, also makes the same style hammer. Really, really good hammer to work with. If you like a heavy hammer, this is about 3 pounds almost. I like about a 2 or 2.5 pound hammer. In one of his classes, Doug Barker showed me how to flare the end of this and do this to this Swedish pattern. This is my favorite hammer. I shorten the handle, put grooves in it for better grip, which works really good for me. Some people have problems with this. It causes blisters on their hands, but I've never run into that, so it just gives me a better grip. I use a quarter band. John, I use a quarter band. I have a Milwaukee quarter band. That's DeWalt, yeah. I like the Milwaukee better. I have both versions. I have a shallow throat and a deep throat.
So you don't roll the lock and cuts though?
A little bit. Now, on the small cross, I get them even.
Right.
They will open up a little bit. Sometimes I'll overlap maybe a 1/16 of an inch if I want a diamond in the middle.
Okay.
Depends on how big a diamond you want. You can go too big with it, and it just makes a mess and try to square it back up.
Gotcha.
So I don't like to overlap my cuts very much. Most of my tools wind up on the floor at home. So when I'm looking for something that I don't know where it is, I just start looking on the floor. I'll eventually find it, lay it down there somewhere. I've experimented with long pliers, try to come up with some way to hold a flat bar, and that helps a little bit, but sometimes it gets in the way. I need to tweak it up a little bit. I'm probably going to cut these sides off a little bit, make it a little easier to drop the work. But you can get these long tongs at Harbor Freight, or long pliers, and just repurpose them for all sorts of different things to hold things. Yeah, those work good too. This is the first pair of tongs I ever made. Bill Shoemaker's shop over 20 years ago. When you're working with stainless steel and it gets back to that color, you want to stop hammering because it will break. At least that's been my experience. I have broken a couple of crosses trying to split them at that particular or colder. When you're trying to see if something's straight, you start looking at it. You can find a line on the wall somewhere there and compare it. But you need to turn it around the other way and look at it that way too, because your eyes will play a trick on you. When you think it's straight one way, you turn it around, you can see that it's maybe not quite as straight as it should be, or square. Now, you try to get it as close as you can to square, but I'm going to flare this out a little bit, and if it's not perfectly square, the flaring will hide that it's not exactly right. So that's one of the tricks to flaring the ends of it. The little fishtail flare kind of hides it if you don't get it really perfectly square. This one's close enough for what we're going to do. Now, it's about 2 inches this way and about almost 4 that way. I'm going to cut this off to where it'll be the same length as this, which is about 7/8. So let me cool it. Next time you go to Harbor Freight, pick you up one of these cheap measuring tapes. It has metric and standard measurements on it. And if you ever have a project where you need to know about your metric measurements, that you can compare it to this. Makes it real easy. Or you can get your cell phone out and call Siri and say, hey, what's the measurement for metric measurement for 3 inches? So, which would be about 7.5 millimeters or whatever. Anyway, that's a good way to convert everything over.
Get on their email list and get a coupon for a free one with any purchase.
I'm going to check. That's about at 7/8. So I'm going to mark this at 7/8. I'm going to whack it off over here and we'll flare it out.
John, where do you buy your stainless steel?
I was lucky enough to have a friend to give me a bunch. I've got several lengths of half-inch round stainless steel. I have no idea what grade it is. All I know is it's stainless steel, and it doesn't rust. So, you know,
Most of the time.
there's folks that, you know, keep up with all that kind of stuff, but, you know, stainless to me is stainless, so for what I use it for. I use these pliers like a pair of tongs many times. They work really good for me in several different situations. I like these things. This is a handy pair of tongs. You can grip stuff this way or this way, and that's a good. You're getting into it new. Get you a pair of these to start with. You can use them for many different things. Round, square stop. You want to learn to make your own tongs. These were made from a 3/8 by 1 flat bar to get enough meat for the jaw. We shaped them out and forged them and drew the handles out. It's quite a long process if you do it by hand, but if you have a treadle hammer or a power hammer, it's just a few minutes to heat it and move it out like you want it. This design is something that Billy Watson and Roger Schaefer came up with several years back. I can hold square and round stock with this and the same tongs. Flat stock, whatever. Pretty handy pair to have. One of my favorite pair too. Flare these out. Don't worry about getting one side a little bit wider than the other, because you can clean all that up on the belt sander. You have to clean them up, get the sharp edges off. If a lady wears this, she gets it in a blouse or knit blouse or whatever, just sharp grab something with a full of material and mess it up. You made her mad instead of making her happy. So you want to get this thing as smooth and clean as you can get it, round edges, because it jumps around and does different things. Some people texture both sides. when they make these so that when the cross gets turned over, it still looks the same. It doesn't matter to me. I just do one side because I like to put my touch mark on the back. But when you clean it up on the belt sander, get the sharp edges off, then you go to the deburring wheel, which is a Scotch-Brite wheel. That cleans it up, it gives it a smooth satin finish. Then you can go to the cotton wheel and make it shine up like a piece of chrome. Some people prefer a satin finish on their cross. Some people like the shiny finish. So you can make them both ways. After they're finished, you drill a little hole. I have some split rings that we put in it where you can hang, put a piece of leather or chain or whatever you want to use. I think just about everybody in our forge group back home makes these things and gives them away or sells them. It's a real popular item. Textured hammer. Chipping hammer from Harbor Freight. I try to hammer deep grooves, but I don't want to put a groove in every location. I want to leave some high spots that I can kind of shine. That's really all you need to do. Just give it the wood grain effect. I'll put the touch mark on the back. I made this touch mark jackhammer bit. I used letter stamps to stamp my letters into a female piece. I came back and stamped this in. Round the outside of it off to make it smaller. Simple, easy way to do it. It doesn't cost you $250 to have your touch mark made. You do it yourself. I made several other touch marks over here. I have a dogwood flower. I have an anvil stamp. I have a turkey head, turkey feet. So I've got different types of stamps that I like to use for different things. Normally when I put my touch mark on the back, it'll flatten the other side a little bit, so I have to go back and add another groove. And you normally just get one try at this. It's hard to get your stamp back in the same place to hit it a second time, so you need to give it a good whack to start with. Travis said I would drop something here, so I did. Okay. Alright, y'all pass these around again and you can see the different stages. The shiny ones after it's been hit with a deburring wheel. Of course the rough one, and then the satin finish.
Now, say again, when you make your slices, you got one to look at?
This is a,
No, I mean when you make your cuts.
okay.
Here's your little blank.
This one that hasn't been cut.
It's about 2 inches on it, isn't it?
Yeah,
2 inches one way, 1 inch the other.
1 inch the other way. This is 3 inches.
Right. Okay, I see. This
1 inch.
side and that
Yeah.
top and bottom.
Opposite ends.
Cut them like this. And if you overlap the cuts a little bit, then they'll have a bigger diamond in the middle. But keep in mind that the larger the overlap, the bigger the diamond is, and the harder it is to square up afterwards.
Yeah, right.
because the diamond kind of deforms it a little bit.
Okay.
If you do it just right, the diamond will enhance what you do. On the bigger crosses, the tall ones, you can see a little bit on this one where it opened up, but I welded it back up. If you look down in there, you can see where it opened, but I covered it back up with the flour. And the dogwood flower has a great meaning to me because not only does it symbolize Christ on the cross, but it was my mother's favorite plant, favorite bush. So I named my forge Dogwood Forge for that reason. And I have dogwood trees in my yard in front of my forge. So I just really like the dogwood flower. Clay demonstrated that in one of the classes I went to, fleur-de-lis and 2 or 3 other items. I think he did a maple leaf or some other leaves and dogwood flower. He did dogwood leaves too. And I just like the way it looks. I wanted to put the dogwood on here, but I couldn't figure out how I was going to stamp it in the cross after it was opened up. And one night laying in bed, it just came to me that if I would cut a slice of stainless steel bar and stamp it with my dogwood flower cut mark, you can see that. Get it over here where the internet can see it. This makes this, and made from this. Now, when I cut these slices, I cut out about 4 or 5 at a time, because when I go to heat this and then center that to stamp it on the treadle hammer, I never get it in the center the first time. So it takes me about 4 tries to get one perfectly centered to where I like it and I want to use it. When I did the first 2, I think I stamped about 8 of these before I got enough that I felt good with the way they came out. Now you can round it up a little bit on the belt sander if you want to go to that trouble. I did not do that with this, but as you stamp it, you can see a little bit difference in the size. The stamp spreads the material out a little bit as it stamps into it. So, but it just makes a nice enhancement to the cross, just like on the big one. I have several at home that have the feet that are not shiny like this, they're dark. With the flower and the feet. I just was playing around one day when I made several of these to hang on the wall. I decided to polish one of them, and that's what I came up with. And I have another one just like it that's dark.
That's welded on?
Yeah, it's welded on from the back, big welded. I use the 1/4-inch rivet. I drill a hole through the stainless steel in the middle, put it in, tack it from the back, and then I take a center punch and texture up the head of the 1/4-inch rivet. Sometimes I use a round center punch, sometimes I use a square. But that just gives it the effect that that's what the pedal type inside of the flower looks kind of like. And then I just cut it off to the right length and big weld it from the back side. And that works fine. This where I hang it, that's a lock washer. And I just tack it on the bottom, hang it on a nail. And I borrowed this leather from Travis this morning just to wear it for fun of it. But,
Can you show that stamp one more time for
Sure.
the internet? Everybody wants to see it.
oh, wrong punch.
Thank you.
That work?
Mm-hmm.
You can see how the stamp matches up. I also made this. This is a coil spring from a car. I nailed it, filed all the out, shaped it the way I wanted it, put little notches in it, little grooves. The little grooves were made with a diamond wheel on a Dremel tool. So that's where the little grooves came from. And then I took a round punch while it was hot and punched the middle to give the impression in the middle. All of these tools you can make yourself. It's not hard to do. I'll show you the others that I have. I had a friend back home that was
making turkey calls, the scratch type turkey call, and he wanted to emboss the back with his touch mark. So I made him one that looks like a turkey foot, and then we made another one that's a turkey head. And then prior to that, I had made another stamp that looked like an anvil. So since I call my forge Dogwood Forge, I use my initials, I use the Dogwood stamp, and I use the anvil stamp for Dogwood Forge. So I don't always put all three on the work that I do, but I normally just use my initials, like a monogram, the T's in the middle and JW. But all this stuff can be made at home. It's not that difficult to do. Coil spring, you can do a lot of stuff with coil spring. Really neat things. And you may want to, on the back side of your stamp, so you know how it's oriented, cut a groove somehow on a bandsaw or a chop saw or whatever you want to do, so you'll know that you have it oriented right when you go to stamp it. Now, keep in mind that you want to have your letters up, so as you put your tools in the vice grip pliers, try to put them all the same way, so that when you grab it, you know that you got it oriented right, and then the line lets you line it up correctly. So that helps. All of my tools are set up with the grip part on this side, and this pair of pliers right here, probably the handiest tool holder that you can get. Now, several folks have made something similar to this, like tongs, and they work really well. I don't have any, but Mike Lynn probably has some. But anyway, this works good for me because I have a weak hand and it's easier for me to grip, just hold it like this. So all you beginners, you're going to pick up a lot of tricks from different people, but I just tried to make something that was easy for me, works for me. I tried using vice grip pliers to hold the material when I was forging, but it didn't quite work out as good as I wanted it to. So I went back to using tongs, but I don't have as good a strength in my left hand as I would like to have. You find out when you get to be 70 years old, you start losing strength and muscle mass. So just get ready for that. It's coming.
I'm there with you.
Yeah.
70.
I'll be 70 in September.
Yep, I got you.
Physically, I know it. Mentally, I don't. I don't feel mentally 70 years old, almost 70. We're going to do the flower next. If we got time to go ahead and do the flower, what time we got here?
10 after 11.
10 after 11. We can do that real quick. Let's get this going.
Dogwood flower.
Dogwood flower. Pass this one around.
I was looking for my remote the other day, and my wife kept saying, it's on the kitchen table, it's on the kitchen table. I looked 4 times. I think she put it there afterwards, but I can't prove it.
Yeah. That's one of my ringtones on my phone is who let the dogs out. Not necessarily. We have 2 cocker spaniels.
Oh, okay.
They don't know the dogs.
Yeah.
They think they're people. And they're our 4-legged children.
Yeah.
And I like that song, who let the dogs out. I put it on my phone. The right song is first back. It's funny when you're sitting in a restaurant and talking about taking care of the dog, people looking around like, what's going on?
This is the pattern that I use when I make my flower. I use it to draw it out with Sharpie. Don't normally use this thickness of stainless steel, but it's what I had, so that's what I use. I'll find something a little bit thinner later and go back to the size that I like best. But this is brass. I hang it on the wall at home. I cut most of this out on the quarter band, and I come back and clean it up on the chop saw. I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I cut the forge off, about using the chop saw for that. When I make the center, when I dimple the center, it has to be exactly centered on top of this piece of pipe. With the pattern, I can see the edges pretty well and easily centered. This is a little bit larger, so it's hard to see how to get it lined up. You will stare at this, take that material, do this 2 or 3 times, then you can get it in the center. Then I take my other tool and stamp it, it comes out like I want it. I learned that trick from him. Hold down on it real tight. It still jumps off. Usually takes a couple of heats to get it like I want it. I've used this one so many times it's starting to collapse over to one side. Short pieces of pipe on a twisting fork can really help you when you're trying to twist and scroll something. You can stack them on top of one another and get the size that you want. It makes it real easy.
Okay, this is not an exact dogwood flower. It's close. If you look at a dogwood flower, you will not see grooves in the pedestal. That's just to give it some appearance. I don't know if you put those in yours or not.
Yeah.
Now, some people will, instead of putting the sharp grooves in there, they will take a narrow, clean hammer and they will texture it using this. And I have done that before. But basically, when you look at that flower from a distance or close up, it just jumps out at you. So that's the reason why I cut the grooves in there like that. Now, you look at it, not all four of them are exactly the same, but you still get the same effect. I have screwed these up 2 or 3 times trying to put them in there and get them all alike. Get one way up here and one way down here. I have to start all over. But basically, you start out with your doing the middle with the cup. Where did I put it? Well, anyway.
The cup's down on the foot of the handle.
Yeah, there it is. That'll cool it.
You get a little hot.
Start out and do the dimple in the middle, and then you come back with the rounding hammer. This is the one that Travis has that was close to what I wanted to use it for. I didn't bring the one that I normally use to do this, but I cup it in here like this to get it this way, and then I roll it down a little bit and hammer on the ends to kind of curl it over a little bit. So that's what you wind up with. You can go as far as you want to go with that, tweak it any way you want to go with it. Just whatever your preference is, what your personal like is. The next I'll drill a hole in here, a 1/4 inch hole, and I'll put a rivet in it, and then I'll texture it like I did on this one, and shine it up on the deburring wheel, polish it up, and then I can weld it to whatever I'm going to put it on. So that's pretty easy to make. Stainless steel is a good material to work with. It's a little bit hard if you work in a big piece and trying to draw a bar out, do it by hand. It's pretty hard to work with. But if you have a treadle hammer or a power hammer, a tire hammer, you can do it real quick. So build you a tire hammer. A little trick I tried several years ago, make a candle cup for a project I was working on. My dad was a machinist, so I called him up and I said, hey, I need something. I need you to make me a swedge to make a little candle cup with. So he machined this block and this plunger for me. So it does the top and the bottom. When I first got it made, I would spread the top out. It has a stop inside. You can see that, where that will only go in so far. Can't go through. And then he took the other side and beveled it so that I could form this part. Well, that works good. It's 2 steps. So I figured out that I could do it in 1 step by using the bottom side. If you see how it fits, it's getting ready to spread out. So what I normally do is use the bottom to start with. I'll go to the treadle hammer and start smashing it down. So I'm going to go over and show you how it works. It's really heavy too. Straight piece of tubing, 1 inch round tubing, you have a nice little candle cup that you can weld on any project that you're making. Do it in 1 step or 2 steps, whichever way you want to go with it. That's pretty easy to make. You could make some of these.
Show that jig to the camera, John, if you can.
Okay.
They can see it.
This plunger used to be about this long, and I cut part of it off so I could use it in the treadle hammer. But this is bottomed out inside where the tubing has a stop inside where the tubing stops. And it's also flared here, and on the bottom it's flared. So I found out that I could do both steps at one time instead of doing 2 steps and bringing it out and doing the bottom. I just do them both at one time. So that works out really well. Easy to make. You gotta have a friend with a lathe, or do it yourself if you have one. I do some from pipe. I heat them up and forge them out, and that goes pretty quick. It's interesting. When you work with pipe, what do you use pipe for? Gas, water, air. If you're going to forge a piece of pipe, you better plug up the open end with paper towel, put a cap on it or whatever, because if you don't, that heat's going to travel up that pipe. And it'll get just as hot out here as it does down here where you're working with it. So keep that in mind, that when you start working pipe, you need to close it up. Now you can flatten it, weld it up, or I'd normally just stuff a piece of paper towel or newspaper or something down there to plug the hole up, and it keeps the air from coming through, and it'll stop it from getting hot up here. It's a little bit hard, long to work with. I'll cut some of this off. Is it time to eat yet?
No, we got a few more minutes. She's
How
on
long
her
we
way.
got? 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
Maybe 20 minutes.
Okay, let's do that real quick. Let me cut off. This is 3/4. To my understanding, that pipe is measured to the inside. Tubing is measured to the outside. This is 3/4. It's actually a little bit over 3/4. And black pipe is normally used for natural gas or propane. Galvanized pipe is usually used for water. Do not forge galvanized pipe. It creates a toxic fume that will make you real sick. This is coated with some type of a paint. It burns off pretty easy, and I don't think it creates too many toxic fumes. If it has, it hasn't hurt me yet. I don't have any problems with forging pipe. So anyway, let me cut a piece of this off. Still didn't cut it square.
I didn't tell him you could tell.
No better. Close enough. Close enough for gun to work.
Schedule 40.
Schedule 40, yeah. You can go with 20, or you want to go struggle to work with 80, you can use 80. It's a lot thicker, a little more work, but still use it. 40 works great for what I'm doing. Almost forgot. That's basically all you need. Just as long as you keep the air from flowing through, you shouldn't get too hot.
Kevlar glove. You can grab a piece of hot steel and hold it for about 5 seconds, not much longer than that. If this glove gets wet, it's like steam on the inside when something hot hits it. You don't want to pick up anything hot when it gets wet. I like the open cuff because if it gets wet and sweat, I grab something hot, I can sling it off real quick. He uses the closed cuff because he doesn't want sparks and scale getting up inside his glove and burning his hand. But he doesn't have a problem with it getting wet, you know, so he works smarter than I do. I'm still learning this stuff, guys. There's a lot I don't know. A lot I wish I knew, but you got to take time to learn it. The more time you spend in it, the better you'll get in it, the more you know. There's no way that we'll ever learn it all. There's so much to do, so much to learn. There's no end to it. But as you watch me do something, and Steve, and Clay, and Ron, and Jesse, you're going to learn something from them. They just have a different way of doing things. There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and there's my way. You know, so some of them come together and work good, some of them don't. I like to start out on the horn of the anvil. You can see it starting to flare. You can come back and pulling it out like that. You can use a cross peen or a straight peen, whichever works good for you. Use your ball peen hammer. I do it different ways. The quick way to do it is to have something like this that you can drive it down on, and that will help spread it out. How this does. I haven't tried this before. That ain't gonna work.
That was not big enough.
That ain't gonna work. So much for that trick.
I was gonna say,
See,
it's over here, we'll get it.
I'll stick with the horn. I have a small ball like this at home, about a half-inch smaller than this, that I used to use that for, but I didn't bring it. It's about this size here. I got it parked, I'm gonna go with it.
Never mind.
Okay, you can stop there and use that, or you can roll it on over, which I do sometimes. It's all on what you want. The little ones up front that I've used to switch the pipe candlestick holder out of, I rolled it around a little more. If you like that style, stop where I'm at. For the top part, I'm going to smooth it up a little bit here. Leave it like that. Running out of gas.
This works.
I'm going to switch to a heavier hammer. Take it down as far as you want to go with it. I'm going to put a little ball in the middle. This is made out of mild steel, something I threw together about 2 months ago. Had trouble getting it back up, and I wanted to put the material back in there, so I welded this to the front so I could pick it up with a hammer. So when you make one, you can make the top piece longer, or you can weld you a little bar on the front. That's the way to pick it up. How many of you have seen the commercial on TV? Skechers, the shoes with memory soles in them. I bought a pair. I put them on every time I go into the kitchen so I can remember what I'm going in there for. Start out slow until I get a good impression all the way around, and I go to heavier blows, faster blows. You need to try to keep your bar square with this. ball in the middle. Now I'm gonna take this down just a little bit tighter, and we'll cut it off. You can make a candlestick out of this by doing this in 2 or 3 different places along here. Make it as tall as you want it. You can do some pretty neat work with pipe. Do it off yet?
I don't know, I didn't touch it. Use my foot.
I didn't do it. Okay, pretty good. Now, if you're gonna attach this with a bolt or a ribbon, whatever, you might want to leave that a little bit larger so you can drive something through it or drill down through it with a 1/4-inch drill. And pretty good. This is getting pretty warm up here. I can still hold on to it, but I wouldn't dare do it with this hand. Yeah, that's the trick I learned the hard way, is to test your metal with the back side of your hand. Because I have burned my hand several times. But as you get into blacksmithing, get ready, because you're going to get burned. It's not a matter of will you get burned, it's how bad you will get burned. So you got to think about that. That makes a nice little candle. You cut it off right here, and you can put it on a cup. I've got these little cups over here that I make some round discs and this is the trick I learned from the Russian guy. Let me pick out one I can work with here, and I'll show you how I form these. It goes pretty quick. You can do it cold. I like to do them hot. It just turns out a little smoother. I'm gonna heat this one up just a little bit on what heat we got. If it'll go in there, it won't go in there. Okay, we're gonna try it cold. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but we're gonna try it. Do it over here on the treadle hammer. Make sure I got the largest. Yeah.
Might not come down far enough, John.
You don't think it will?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Ease down, see.
Nope. That's I'll tell you what we'll do. Real hard. Can you do it on one of the tires? Cameras? All right, let's put you up. Let's do it unless we're rolling. Okay, do it here. I used to do this on the treadle hammer at home. hard to keep it centered. But basically, with the right ball, you can shape it. Then you come back, put this on top of it, and smooth the sides back out. And it works really well on the treadle hammer. But you can do it with one wham on a treadle hammer, where it's a little difficult doing it this way. But that'll flatten the sides back out by turning it over and using the same ring that you formed it with the ball. Try something to see if this will work. I don't think it's going to go. Not the way I'm trying to do it. Anyway, that makes a nice little wax catcher. You can dimple it on the edges with this tool here. And I also use this on the treadle hammer. If you look, you got two pieces of bar welded on the bottom, one on the top, and as it squeezes, it'll put a dimple in it. And you can mark your plate, everywhere you want to put a dimple. Come in between them. You can do 8, 16, however many you want to do. 16 is usually enough, but that puts a little dimple in there. So let's just try one, see how it does with a hammer. So you get the idea of the effect that you can get.
What gauge are you using?
It's probably 14, a little thicker than what you really need. 18 would work real well.
Okay.
There again, it's what I had. So I just cut a bunch of circles out with a plasma torch one day, and that's what I came up with. If you do any work with the plasma torch and you want to cut out some disc silhouettes, style, circles, squares, whatever, you can use a masonite template. I use 3/16, sometimes 1/4 inch. I'll make my template. I make it 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch larger than what I want to end up with. You got to take in consideration on the tip of your plasma torch the distance from the center to the outside of the cutting edge. Mine has a drag tip on it, and it's about 3/16 right at from the center to the outside edge. So I allow for that when I use my circular pattern. That's how I cut these out. You cut out 25 or 30 of these with a piece of masonite before it burns out on the backside. I also have a circle cutter that I made that I put the tip in like using school, cut circles with, or draw circles.
Protractor.
Yeah, whatever it is, one of them. And you can cut bigger circles with it. That's what I used to cut my crank plate out with a tire hammer. And so plasma torch is a real handy tool. You can do a lot of artwork with it and do silhouette patterns. Rick J showed me how to make a pattern from a piece of poster board. Once you get your pattern, it takes more time to cut the pattern out than it does to cut out the piece of metal that you want to use or that you want to make. But the poster board lays on the steel, and you weight it with little rocks and nuts to hold it down. Flat white spray paint. Mist it, get it covered, light coat. Flat white spray paint dries 3 times faster than gloss. 15 minutes it's dry, you can start cutting. Use gloss paint, you're going to have to wait till the next day to cut it out. So I always use flat white spray paint. Then you just cut all the white stuff away, and then you got what's left over. And I cut out the blacksmith standing at the anvil like Travis has got out front. Fireman kneeling at the cross. Friends of mine, grandson passed away. I cut out a silhouette of him and his little brother and sent it to him. You can do some really neat stuff with the plasma torch. The one I have is a Hypertherm 1000. I have 2 different tips that work with it. One is a large tip for cutting thicker metal, and one is a smaller tip for cutting thin stuff. The problem I have with it is that the hose is so stiff, it's kind of hard for me to maneuver and cut. Once you get comfortable with it, you can actually write with it
just like you can with a ballpoint pen or a pencil. If you have a flexible hose and you get pretty good at it, and it just flows real good. But the hose that I use on mine is a larger one because of the capacity to cut big material, and it makes it a little difficult for me to cut some of the designs that I want to cut out. So occasionally I'll make my pattern and I take it to a friend that has a water jet, and I'll have him scan it into his system, and he'll cut it out for me on the water jet, and I can get it real accurate that way. I've learned a lot of neat tricks from a lot of people, and the demos at Tanny Hill, AFC conference, you're gonna have to go a long ways to find some better than what we bring in. We've had some mighty good demonstrators there. Terry Sheridan came down last year. I'm amazed at what he does. He forges in thousandths of an inch, where I do it in quarters of an inch, you know, so he's very good at what he does. You need to take his class up at Campbell, traditional joinery class. You'll learn so much stuff. It's just amazing that a man would help make wheels for the moon buggy, want to get out and beat on hot iron in a blacksmith shop. So
How much I owe you for all the advertising?
oh, you don't owe me a dime. I owe you a lot. But this guy right here has taught so many people all over this country more than what I've ever learned from him. But he's taught us a lot, and he's an awesome guy, good friend, and I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about him. So you know, he's well respected in all communities, in all states, and all blacksmithing groups. But
I'm glad he's in the Alabama Forge Count.
I am too.
Instead of some of the others.
Yes, sir, me too. They've tried to steal him from us many times, believe me. But he keeps coming back to us for some reason. I don't know, I guess he likes some of us. But there's so many people that can teach you so much stuff. Batson, great teacher. If you want to do knife work, you won't find a better teacher than that. Several people in the knife guild, really good at it. Travis and Al and Steve. I mean, y'all do some amazing stuff. You've done stuff that I never would have attempted, like that ring project in there. You tell Travis you can't do something, he's going to prove you wrong. He's going to figure out some way to do it, and he did. But you look at some of the stuff he's got in the shop, in the display area in there, stuff I would love to learn how to do. I wish I could come up here and spend about 6 months with him and learn some stuff, but unfortunately I've got duties at home to do. So, but take the time to spend with these folks and learn what you can, and pass on what you learn. Don't keep it a secret. We don't want any secrets kept in this group. Just take what you learn and pass it on. We've got 2 young boys in our group. They're learning to blacksmith, and they're coming along pretty well. Their last name is White, so we call them the White Boys. But we have a lot of fun with them, and they're good kids, and they're learning, they're eager, and so we're real proud of their efforts to try to learn to do some of this. And they started out with not knowing anything at all, had no tools, no equipment, and we were able to scratch up some things for them to get started with, and help them build a forge and propane and coal, and they're coming along quite well with it. But their mom even gets in there with them and works with us some.
We got
Down deep.
We'll be in just a minute, quick thing, get it set up.
One mention I want to say about the ladies in blacksmithing. Yeah, I guess you're the only one here that, whatever. But are you doing blacksmithing? Do you? Okay. I have noticed that they tend to outdo us a little bit. The ladies usually have a little more artistic finesse. They see things we don't see, finer things, and if they have painting skills, art, drawing skills, that type of thing, carving, they apply it to metal, and sometimes they outdo us quite often. A young lady named Elizabeth Brim does some amazing stuff. There's a couple of girls over in Atlanta, and I cannot think of their name. They have a shop in Atlanta, and they do work for folks over there and just do an amazing job.
Mindy Gardner in Southern Illinois.
Okay.
Julie Clark, wherever she's at these days.
They just seem to do really well with it, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that most of them are better than me. So, but it's fun, folks. It is a lot of fun, and it's hot, nasty work at times. But where else can you do something like this and have fun doing it?
John Wayne, we appreciate you coming up. You done some very good
Thank you.
job also. We appreciate it. Let me say this, guys.
blame this on me for having our food here at 12 o'clock. I should have had it at 11. I forgot we had started meeting at 9 instead of 10. So that give us a longer span. But we're gonna set up, we've got plenty of hot dogs. Believe me, we've got plenty. We got a dishpan full of banana pudding about this big around on that. So we want everybody to
Not for
eat
long.
everything up.